All right. So yeah, thank you everyone for being here. Let me just pick up my slide. No? Right. Right. It's okay. So I understand you everyone it stopped no at around this set of slides last time. So let me just do a recap now of some of the slides in terms of networking. So again, in the AWS cloud, right, you have that logical network isolation for you versus your other users or other customers of AWS. Yeah, you want to make sure that your network, right, you cannot ping another customer, you cannot be pinged by another customer, right? So basically you have control of the cloud on the network level as well. On the hardware level, we have limited options because we don't control the hardware. We can only do dedicated, bare metal, etc. But at least on the network, we have full control and mastery of that, right? So this is the virtual private cloud, the VPC. And of course, you can, subdivide your VPC into subnets. You can make it private, okay, only within the network, or public, where users from the outside can actually initiate traffic. So very useful for public are web servers, right? Because they're the one requesting the information to your application. While for private, things like databases, because again, end users should not be connecting directly to the database. They should instead connect to your web server, and it's just the web server that you control connects internally to the database. So again, that's subnets. You control the routing, the gateway, how things are, basically the map, how to move around your VPC. And lastly, things like firewall, right, on a network level, called network access control list. So you can deny to and from ports, IP addresses, etc. on the network. Okay, so to determine that a subnet is public, it must have a route to an internet gateway. So the internet gateway is like your DSL modem router, no, or your fiber router. Okay, you need a device that will act as the entry point to connect to the internet, right? And the internet can connect to your public subnet. Okay, so that is the gateway. Okay, so it's like, the gateway. Okay, it's a managed service, so you don't have to worry about scaling it up and down. Basically, the total number of traffic, how many requests. That's all managed for you. So you don't have to think about that. Okay, so it's horizontally scaled, redundant, and highly available already. Okay, all you really have to do is, again, tell the subnets that you have to go to that gateway. Okay, so imagine if this is a village, this is a village. You tell them, hey, go to gate 2 to go to the skyway, right? So otherwise, if it's private only, they won't even know how to get to the skyway because you don't tell them what gate to go to, or there is no gate to go outside your village. Okay, so that routing, okay, that mapping is called route tables. Again, it is the rules for your destination and targets. So as you can see here, this is an example of a route table. You have a destination, your own local within your vicinity, that is called local. That is the entire VPC address. Okay, and then in your outside internet, that's 000, pointing to the internet gateway. Okay, there are default route tables already, but you can create custom route tables just for additional security if you want to, or you want to modify the routings. Okay, so again, you have this route table that you place on your subnets, and you also control even later on when you're doing VPC or peering connections as well. Okay. Now, in terms of their network, remember we're using IPv4 or IPv6. So basically, it's either 4 octets. So when you put it in binary, it's like 0001111, 4/8 of those, okay, which is translated into like something like 192.168.0.0 or 192.168.2.4. So that's IPv4. IPv6 usually follows a hex, so it's quite longer, no, and different. But basically, it just provides you a list of IP address. No? Your network, your VPC can be just use a single IP version. No? You can say, hey, I only want IPv4. You can have IPv6 only, recently announced. No? You can now create VPCs with only IPv6, or you can do dual stack, okay, which is both combined. Right? Now, bringing a VPC, you will define your IP address, but you can also bring your own. Okay, so if you don't want to use the internal IP address of AWS, you can bring your own. No? So just in case you're a large company that have bought IP addresses already previously, you can bring that on your own. Okay. Just know that in IP addresses, there is a network identifier and host identifier. Okay. And then in your subnetting, you have your network identifier, subnet identifier, and host identifier. Why is this important? Okay, how you write your IP range, how you write your IP range. Sometimes it's called CIDR blocks, CIDR notation. Okay, and basically that notation tells you how many are in the network identifier and how many in the host identifier. Okay, but again, I personally don't memorize this. I just use a calculator. No, converting your CIDR to IP addresses. Okay, so every IP address type, okay, or version has, of course, its limitations. Okay, so again, in the SAA, you won't really be quizzed on the different types, no. But just to take note, not all, okay, not all EC2. I would like to highlight here. Okay, not all EC2 supports IPv6. Okay, so you'd have to double check which EC2s or which instances can actually support IPv6. Okay. And subnets, they are your subgroups. No, you have your entire VPC. It's now the groups inside. They are a subset, okay, subset of your VPC written inside their blocks. Okay, so if your VPC contains, let's say, 64,000 IP addresses, then your CIDR blocks, you can chop that down, okay, into smaller groups. Okay, just note that subnet CIDR blocks cannot overlap. No, so again, it's you're using one big VPC. You chop them out, so of course the addresses cannot overlap. Okay. And when you subgroup it, okay, not all IP addresses are usable. Okay, every time you subgroup the CIDR the VPC, 5 of those will be reserved. Okay, 5 of those will be reserved. Okay, and unlike the VPC that spans the entire availability zone, when you subnet, it can only reside in one availability zone. Okay, so your VPC covers all availability zones possible, but the subnet is only within a availability zone. Okay, an availability zone though can contain multiple subnets. Okay, so in, let's say, AZA, you can have subnet 1, subnet 2, subnet 3, subnet 4, and AZB, then you have like subnet 5, subnet 6, subnet 7, subnet 8. Okay. Now, another device on networking, networking is your ENI. Okay, so think of this like a virtual network card. It is a virtual network card. Or think of this like a USB Wi-Fi, or let's say a USB dongle for your internet adapter, no? Especially for maybe some of us are Mac, we don't have that LAN port, no? So this is like that. It's a dongle, okay? It's a device, right? So it's a virtual interface network. Now, as a network itself, it cannot do anything until it's being used. So one of the things it can do is, of course, attach it to an EC2. Okay, so like your computer, you attach it to your computer. No? Now, this ENI resides in the availability zone, in the same availability zone. So if, let's say, you have that Wi-Fi USB, okay, you can detach it and then you can move it to another computer, okay, within the same AZ. Okay, when you move it, it maintains its own IP address. Okay, whatever IP address it got, its own elastic IP. okay, the private and elastic IP, and also MAC address. Okay, so it retains that information. With this extra, with an extra ENI, you can actually create dual home instance. Okay? Dual home instance means that one computer can have two ENIs. Okay, because it has two ENI, that technically means a EC2 could be part of two subnets. Okay, because it is two ENI. Okay. Now, in your running EC2, let's say you're running EC2, there is already an ENI, and this is called the primary or F0. No, that cannot be detached. Okay, so your first ENI when you run an EC2 and some of these services, they cannot be detached already. Otherwise, you will not have access to your network, no, or your computer. But you can add the secondary. That secondary, okay, that you can attach and detach, depending on how you attach and detach that. You can detach that hot, while the computer is running, you detach it. It can be warm. Apparently, when your EC2 is stopped, then you detach it, and that's called warm. And apparently, there's also such a term called instance is being launched. While it's being launched, it's still cold. You can attach and detach it as well. Okay. Now, this is different also from an elastic network adapter. Okay, so just to tell you, this is different from an elastic network adapter. Right. So that's just a virtual card, no? And we'll go back to that in later slides as well. Next, we have our NAT instance. No? NAT instance provides you a network address translation. Okay. This is to be placed inside your public subnet in the VPC. Of course, since it is inside the public subnet, it must have a public IP address. Something to take note of, not necessarily that when you put it in a public subnet, an instance will have a public IP address. It is up to you to decide. Usually by default in the subnet setting, you say, hey, if it's in the public subnet, it will have a public IP address, but that's not always the case. That is your settings, no? And the default is yes, it will always have, but you can actually turn that off. Okay. So again, for NAT instance, then place it in a public subnet. Make sure it has a public IP address as well. Okay. What does this do? No, a NAT or network address translation service, okay, really helps bridge a route from the private. From private that has no internet connectivity to be able to connect to the internet. So as a NAT, taga-pasa gets it, requests from the private, passes to the NAT, okay, and the NAT then passes it to the internet. Okay, the NAT knows that it can initiate traffic from the private, okay, private pasa, and the NAT also knows that when returning it, I initiate my backend component, my backend instance initiated the traffic. Okay, I can receive it and then return it back. No? However, that instance knows that if the public initiates the traffic, that's nothing. It will ignore that, no? Because again, only the private should be the one to initiate traffic. Okay. Otherwise, if you just always pass it on, that means you already removed the concept of public and private. Okay. So again, that's how we say here, the custom route table from the private must use the NAT instance. So in your route table earlier, again, you point it to the NAT instance. Okay. If you want to deploy this NAT instance, AWS or Amazon provides you a lot of AMI that are configured to run NAT instances. However, do take note that this is considered a single point of failure. You have an instance, you have an EC2, okay, an AMI, right? So that means you have to maintain this. Yes, you can auto scale this maybe in minimum 1, maximum 1, no? So it's self-healing, but it's still a single point of failure. So what you want to do is use a managed service instead. Okay, so again, a managed service is available to you. You place this again in your public subnet. Okay, and what you're paying here now is the hourly usage and also the data processing rates. And it supports major protocols such as TCP, UDP, and ICMP. Okay, because it is not a instance, it is a gateway. There, you cannot use security groups for your NAT gateway. Unlike the NAT instance, you can. NAT instance, you can because it is an instance. Gateway, it's not. So instead, you want to restrict it using NACLs instead, and your route tables. Okay. Out of present, and I have to double check, does not support for IPv6. Use only for outbound traffic. Okay. Not supported for IPv6 at present. Okay. Lastly, another device is called Virtual Private Gateway. It's a managed service. Okay. And in this case, okay, now we have the NAT gateway. So our private can connect to NAT gateway, and NAT gateway connects to the internet gateway. Okay, to the internet. We have another gateway na naman. This time for VPC connections, or basically when you're connecting your VPC to another network. Okay, for hybrid connections, for another VPC. Okay, so this is a virtual private gateway. It is a managed service. So again, scaling that gateway, it's taken care of you. You established two networks together using IPsec. IPsec. Okay. And again, what it does is this virtual private gateway, you launch this inside your VPC, and you'll have a ASN, ASN number as an identifier also. This VPC has two endpoints so that you can use, so that when you're connecting to another network, it has also a high availability and failover as well. Okay, a single VPG is required even if there is multiple connections, multiple networks that you're attaching. Okay, so you just only need one VPG, okay, in your own network, and then you can connect to as many networks that you want to connect for this network. For hybrid, okay, usually there is a customer gateway. There's a corresponding gateway on the customer's end as well. Right. So let's look at how that looks like. So again, this is your VPC here. This is your VPG. Okay, this is your customer gateway. Okay. And again, they're establishing a secured connection over VPN. So the VPG is the one managing with the customer gateway over a secured encrypted connection. Okay. So as mentioned earlier, you just need one VPG, even if you have multiple networks that you want to connect to. Okay. So whether it's one or it's multiple, on your end, okay, on the cloud end, you just need one VPG per VPC. Okay. Next, okay, for hybrid connections, okay, that don't want to use or have, perhaps extra compliance needs, you can actually have a direct connection. So think of this like naglatag ka ng cable. Now you have a fiber optics going from your data center into the cloud itself. Okay, so it is dedicated and private network. Okay, because again, you have your own cable running. There is actually no internet required. So it doesn't pass through the internet at all, just to your dedicated line. Okay, you have a choice between 1 to 10 gigabytes. Okay, it supports BGP peering and routing policies for those that are familiar with those networks. The broadcasting network on how to find out the IP addresses. Okay. Now remember, it's very hard for anyone to really have a cable run from their location to let's say Singapore directly, right? So what they did is that AWS has worked with a DX partner or direct connect partner, where they've already established these cables to the direct connect partner, and it is the direct connect partner that connects to your end, to your data center. And so that's why it's very common that DX partners are usually telco, okay, telco providers, because they already have those C cables or going into the data centers of AWS. Okay, Direct Connect actually reduces your data transfer costs because again, if you are in, okay, you are connected to the region, you're not passing through the internet, and technically that's not counted as a data out. Okay, again, not counted as a data out because you're already part of that network. Okay, right. And again, the use case for DX is data security or security compliance. Right. So here we have an example. You're seeing the virtual private gateway, again, the VPG. Okay, instead of a customer gateway and the VPN, we're using Direct Connect instead. Okay, so Direct Connect using a Direct Connect location provided by the DX partner. Okay. Another example is to use both the Direct Connect, we have the Direct Connect here, and also use the VPN connection. Remember, your VPG has two, okay? Has two endpoints. So one endpoint you can use the Direct Connect, and the other endpoint you can use for the VPN. Okay. Right, next, VPC peering. Okay, so now we talked earlier, we talked about your VPC connecting to hybrid. Let's also connect it to another VPC. Okay, so in VPC peering, it supports multi-region peering. So it doesn't have to be in the same region. Let's say you have a VPC in Singapore and you also have another VPC in Australia. You can actually connect that together. No? Even multi-account peering is allowed. So another AWS account to peer, that's also allowed. No? Each VPC can connect up to 125. Okay, each VPC can connect up to 125. And just to take note that the IP address or the CIDR blocks, right, of your network cannot overlap. Okay, what do we mean by this? So if I'm already using 192.168.1.0/16, no? So I'm using that entire one series, 192.168.1 series. I cannot peer, I cannot connect with another network that's also using that 192.168.1. Okay, so again, I cannot overlap, I cannot peer them together. Okay, so that's something very interesting, no, to take note when you're doing peering. Okay, so that's why if you plan to have multiple VPCs in the future, early on, no, have a VPC mapping already, have rules already on how to create your IP addresses. Likewise, VPC peering is non-transitive. Okay, so if VPC A is paired with VPC B, okay, A and B. Okay, and B is also paired with C. Okay, so B and C. It does not mean that A and C are paired. Okay, so again, non-transitive. So for A to connect to C, okay, you have to establish another peering between A and C. That is non-transitive. Okay. With peering from VPCs, from one VPC to another VPC, that uses the AWS backbone. So it doesn't go through the internet at all. Okay. Just to take note, when again building this multi-VPC design, okay, what are some typical use cases? If you are a small team, you potentially will have a single AWS account, okay, but many VPCs. If you are a large organization and there's a lot of IT teams, but you potentially do is every team has an AWS account, and in those accounts they have a single VPC. Okay. So those are just strategies in the VPC peering. Okay, so let's look at that again. Here we have your A. Okay, it's paired to B, which has the NAT instance. Okay, and here the NAT instance connect to the gateway. Okay, so as you can see here, okay, they're using peering, okay, to go to the internet. Okay, this original VPC remains potentially private. It doesn't even have its own internet gateway. They are peering, no? So they're using this as a shared service, okay? Shared service VPC. Okay. Now, when one of the limitations for VPC peering is that when you have a lot of VPCs that you wanna peer together, no? So earlier, an example, if you have 3 VPCs that you want to peer, then that means A and B and C, and A and C. Okay, so that you need 3 peerings. If you have 4 and you want to interpeer them together, 4, that means you have A and B, A and C, A and D. Okay, and then you have B and C, and B and D. Then for C, you need C and D. So as more and more VPCs that you need to peer together, it becomes more difficult to manage, no? Because again of that non-transitive nature. So AWS has a different solution for you if you want to have a mesh, no? A mesh, which is basically the VPC transit gateway. So here, the design is to connect up to 5,000 VPCs together. Okay, so large VPCs. Again, similar to peering, it allows multi-account, multi-region. It also allows on-premise and hybrid. Okay, so earlier, VPC peering is for VPC to VPC, and then for on-premise, you use the VPG, right? Okay, so again here, the transit gateway is a way for you to manage centrally all your peering connections. Okay, now how does the transit gateway work? It basically is deploying an ENI. Remember the ENI, the virtual card, or let's say virtual USB Wi-Fi. Imagine, okay, those are deployed in these subnets. Okay, those are deployed in the subnets, and that is how you are able to connect to the transit gateway. With that in mind, you can create custom route tables, custom route tables to define yung to and from through all of these 5,000 VPCs. Okay, so how does it look like? Okay, so again, instead of this one connecting to this one connecting to this one connecting to this one connecting to this one, and this one connecting to this one, okay, all you really have to do is all of them connect first to the transit gateway, and then even your on-premise, okay, and then control everything from a single control location. Okay, so next we have another service called VPC endpoints. Okay, so what are VPC endpoints? Okay, the purpose of VPC endpoints is to establish private connections between your VPC and another AWS service. If you remember some of our services like S3, okay, RDS, not RDS, S3, DynamoDB, right? You don't actually, when you deploy it, you don't need to specify the subnet, okay, because they are outside the VPC. Okay, they are in the region but outside the VPC. So if you want to make sure that traffic stays within your VPC, okay, that means you need to have a endpoint inside the VPC to connect to these services. Okay, so this is what VPC endpoints are for, and depending on the service, it can either be an interface or a gateway. So interface meaning you have an IP address, usually powered by an ENI, or a gateway endpoint, which means that you'll have to place it in your route table. Okay, so again, for interface endpoints, okay, it's also sometimes called as private links. Basically, that's an ENI with a private IP address, placed inside your VPC so that you can connect to the service. Okay. With that in mind, you don't need an internet gateway to actually connect outside, to connect outside your VPC. Okay. And it serves as the entry point for traffic destined to a support service. So let us look at a design, a video for this to understand it better.
Connecting to applications on the cloud should be easy. Your data and services should remain secure. AWS Private Link enables you to securely connect your virtual private clouds to supported services, AWS Marketplace applications, AWS services, and your own VPCs. With AWS Private Link, with minimal configuration, services appear to reside right inside your VPC, making them very simple to access. AWS Private Link routes the traffic between VPCs and services over the AWS network, so you no longer need an internet gateway, and that
Sorry,
with AWS Direct Connect. So
Right. It seems like naputol, no? So let me replay that again.
services should remain secure. AWS Private Link enables you to securely connect your virtual private clouds to supported services, AWS Marketplace applications, AWS services, and your own VPCs. With AWS Private Link, with minimal configuration, services appear to reside right inside your VPC, making them very simple to access. AWS Private Link routes the traffic between VPCs and services over the AWS network, so you no longer need an internet gateway, a NAT device, or a public IP address for your VPC. With AWS Private Link, you can simplify both the network management and the security of your VPC, without requiring firewall rules, proxy devices, or route tables. You reduce your vulnerability to threat vectors, such as brute force and man-in-the-middle attacks. AWS Private Link also works with AWS Direct Connect, so you can accelerate your cloud migration with the confidence that your traffic remains secure and compliant with privacy policies. Establish a dedicated and private connection from your on-premises network to your VPCs with AWS Direct Connect, and use AWS Private Link to connect both your on-premises environments and VPCs to services on AWS. AWS Private Link can help you secure access to applications, save the operational and financial costs of managing firewall rules, path definitions, or route tables, safely leverage the scale and simplicity of cloud application, and extend your network from on-premises environments to VPCs and cloud services easily and securely. Learn more about AWS Private Link by visiting aws.amazon.com/privatelink.
Right. So, simple analogy ko to dito minsan is, alam mo yung may service, no? Let's say may mall, no? Pero ayaw mong lumabas ayaw mong dumaan sa commute, ayaw mong mag-commute, ayaw mong magkotse, ayaw mong mag-commute, no? So, tingnan mo yung sometimes na yung village, may parang dedicated line sila, may dedicated tunnel sila papuntang mall, no? So, yan yung parang VPC, meron silang sarili nilang entrance papuntang mall. No, yun yung service, yung mall yung service. Ayaw nila kasing dumaan sa public roads, no? Meron silang sariling connection. All right. Okay, any questions? Okay, or can I ask someone to give me a question? Yun na lang, no? Instead of any question, can I ask someone to give me a question so far? Okay, anything related to AWS? No?
Question po. This is Jody po. Ano po yung use case no virtual private gateway versus direct connect? Kailan nyo po gagamitin yung via IPsec tsaka via dedicated connection?
Right. Okay. So, okay, get it. All right. So, there is always a VPG needed, no? In this case, you always need a VPG to be able to connect to another network. So here you can see, no, whether it be using VPN or direct connect, you will still need a VPG. So siguro ang question is, ano yung use cases ng mag-VPN ka lang over internet versus a direct connect? Yung walang internet, may dedicated line ka. Then, so use case, no? For smaller companies, I think yung expense ng direct connect too much, no? So we will probably use VPN connection lang. Now, for larger companies, usually dalawa talaga yung nakikita kong reason for them. One is that compliance. No, they want to make sure, even if let's say naka VPN to, no, as you know, we're using standard encryption there. I think right now AES 256 ata yung mostly ginagamit ng mga VPN connection, but it could be something else, no. But again, yung mga gusto lang talaga sure, ayaw nila ipadaan sa internet, even gusto nila sure, no, ayaw nila maniwala sa bodyguard. Gusto nila ng sariling tunnel so that you can use a direct connect. So that's the first one, compliance. No? Maybe regulatory compliance or your company's compliance lang. The second one, makita ko yung example dito is you want stable, no? Stable bandwidth. Okay? Sa internet kasi, remember internet, gumagamit ka ng bandwidth or network ng iba. Right? Kasi shared yung infrastructure mo sa internet. Okay? Gumagamit ka ng, may hops ka pa, etc. So, hindi always stable. No? Dito kasi, dahil naka-dedicate sa'yo yan, ma-assure ka kung gusto mo ng 1 gigabytes per second, gusto mo ng 10 gigabytes per second, sa'yo talaga lang yun. No? Yung network. So, dedicated yung network bandwidth and kontrolado mo yung network bandwidth. Okay? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Another question po regarding the transit gateway po. Hindi po ba single point of failure po yung transit gateway?
Right. So, ang kagandahan kasi ng mga managed service, no? They're not a single, kung sa likod niya, they're not a single instance, they're not a single device. They're actually multiple devices, multiple hardware on AWS side, no? So, yun yung ano niyan. If you're using any managed service, okay, managed service, the scaling, the horizontal scaling is done for you.
Okay, sir. Yung transit gateway, pinipili rin po ba kung anong region siya i-deploy?
That's a good question. Since it does support multi-region, I think yes, no, where their initial transit gateway will reside. But I'll double check, no, if this is actually you pick one gateway na initial niya, or is it like i-check mo kung saang regions i-deploy lahat. But let me check, no, on that. So right now I can't give you that answer.
Okay. Last question po. Balik po dun sa virtual private gateway. If in case, sir, that we use yung via internet and via direct connect, how do you control traffic that passes through internet and direct connect? Right.
Actually, that's a good question. So you can do this here, right? So this is depending on your own network yan. So pwede mong idaan yan sa routing, no? Routing perhaps. Hey, pag ganitong klaseng IP addresses or ganito klaseng protocols, okay, ito yung gamitin ko sa VPN. Or if gusto mo, if ganito sa DX, it's actually up to you as a customer how you manage that, no? Much like kung may dalawa kang internet sa bahay, sabay mo bang gagamitin? Kasi merong ganyan actually, or gusto mo failover, no? Dito lang failover. So it's up to you na kung how you want to manage that. Nasa company's own networking rules na on how to use it. Use it sabay, use it percentage, use it parang as a failover lang. Yeah, that's up to the devices and your configuration of these devices.
Okay, thank you po.
All right, no problem, Jody. No, and we have another question from Anna. If example, you only have 3 to 5 VPCs, no? Magta-transit gateway pa ba ako? Yan, yun yung question dito, no? I think for me, kung 3 to 5 lang and more or less generally okay ka na, no? Okay ka na. Yeah, I think I would definitely just use peering instead. Because 3 to 5 lang naman eh. Yeah. Ako personal take ko lang dito. Kung 3 to 5 VPCs lang at the present, then yes, I would use that, no? And remember, even if you use virtual private gateway in the future, okay, you can also still peer this, no? It's not exclusive na pag nag-transit gateway ka, hindi ka na pwede mag-peering. Okay? Or if nag-peering ka, hindi ka na pwede mag-transit gateway. Okay? So initially, yeah, for 3 to 5, I would establish, gusto ko muna, kasi 3 to 5, gusto ko muna makita yung individual peering.
Okay. So wala pong cost advantage for one and the other. Kaya.
Cost advantage, I think generally, I don't see it as a big, cost disadvantage. Kasi although dito sa VPC Transit Gateway kasi meron ka ng ENI na dinedeploy, so meron kang additional cost per subnet, no? Kasi may virtual device kang dinedeploy on a per subnet. So yeah, potentially mas more expensive to konti. Pero this device hindi naman ganun kamahal.
I see. Thank you.
All right, no problem at all. All right, so let's look at this video prepared also to summarize our our AWS network foundations.
Traditional on-premises network setups require high levels of attention and time to manage and validate. AWS networking solutions give you back your time by reducing network complexity, improving security posture, and providing you with the tools needed to monitor your network traffic. Get started by launching an Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, or VPC. You can easily select subnets, IP ranges, route tables, and security groups. You spend less time managing and verifying your network and more time building your applications. You can also use VPC flow logs or traffic mirroring to gain operational visibility, detect network and security anomalies, and troubleshoot issues. To meet your security needs, Amazon VPC provides advanced security features, allowing you to perform inbound and outbound filtering. And to secure your network connection while keeping your traffic on the AWS network, you can use AWS Private Link. Private Link establishes a private and secure connectivity between AWS services and your VPCs. AWS networking solutions scale as needed, even if you have tens or hundreds of VPCs. AWS Transit Gateway helps route all traffic to and from each VPC and provides you with a central console to monitor your connections. Start building a strong foundation today with AWS networking solutions.
All right. Okay. So that generally ends this set of slides. Let me just get the next slides. Right. So our next module is now network. As after networking, we'll now talk about compute and storage. Now that we have a network, parang basically landscape, no? May landscape na tayo. Now we put items inside our network. Okay, so let's talk about compute and storage. Okay. So first, compute services. No? Basically, what are compute services for? It's basically transformation of data to information. We have something, and then we want to output something. You're transforming it. No? So there are many compute services in AWS, and one of it is on the serverless compute, no, called Firecracker. Okay, Firecracker is a serverless runtime so that you can have a lot of these serverless functions run on it. Okay, so just a side note, that's called Firecracker. Okay, and in AWS, our compute service that is serverless is called Lambda. Okay, where you just upload that small function and it will run automatically and scale automatically for you, and you just pay for the compute time that you consume. We'll have more details on this when we're talking about serverless and microservices in later modules. Okay. The second type of compute service are virtual machines. So basically, they are computers. Okay, so they have their own RAM, their own CPU. They need storage or hard disks, right? Okay, and in AWS, these could be SEN, KVM, Nitro systems. It's just the controller, though. How the physical hardware and host operating system and the hypervisor are being controlled, okay, using these systems. So virtual machines, again, it's just a computer, okay, a virtual computer. So you still have your virtual hardware, you pick your operating system, okay, or guest operating system, and then you can install whatever you want to install. You want to install web server, you want to install a database, you want to install games, okay, you can install games, no, on virtual machines as well. Okay. And one of the virtual machines, no, when we say virtual machines on AWS, this is equivalent to what we call EC2 or Elastic Compute Cloud. Okay, Elastic Compute Cloud. Okay. So again, you launch this in a virtual environment, our VPC. Okay, so it has a CPU, it has a RAM, it needs a disk, you know, whether it be solid state drive or yung magnetic, yung umiikot-ikot pa. And of course, a network interface, okay, an ENI. Okay, its first ENI cannot be detached, of course. Okay, you place this in an AZ, okay, meaning on a subnet level. You have to deploy this in a AZ, okay, so that it knows what IP or private IP address it has. Okay, and then when you launch this, you also have the option to provide a user data, okay, which is basically an information that will be run during lunch or first lunch, and it's a script, no? And it usually answers, who should I become? Okay, so you put a script that says, hey, you know, update yourself when you launch, when you run. Okay, it also contains metadata. Okay, so after it is lunch, of course, you need it will keep information about its public IP address, its host name, its MAC address, and other information about itself. Okay, under the metadata. So when launching, okay, you come from an AMI or a Amazon machine image. Okay, you launch that, it goes into pending state. Okay, once it's completed, okay, it goes to running state. Right. From running state, okay, of course you can reboot it. Okay, you can always reboot it, or if you want, you can stop it. Okay, and then start it again. Okay. From running, you can also shut it down and becomes terminated. Okay, just do take note, stopping, okay, stopping and hibernating is only allowed for EBS backed instances, or basically elastic block stored instances. Okay. A solution in AWS is called AWS Instance Scheduler. Okay, it's a solutions design where we can define using the following services, okay, to define, hey, I want to start and stop my instances based on a schedule. Okay, so for example, I decide, hey, these EC2s and these RDS, they must be stopped during nighttime because no one's going to use it because they are developer or QA. Then I can use this simple set of tools, okay, to shut down and turn on my set of EC2 and RDS instance. Okay, so this is a sample solutions design. Okay. Earlier, we mentioned about an AMI. So what is an AMI? No? An AMI is basically like a DNA, a template of what an EC2 will be. Okay. So from an EMI, you can launch one to many. You can have, from that one AMI, you can have one, you can have two, you can have 100 from that AMI. Okay, because again, it's just the template. Okay. For these AMI, you can define later on if it's EBS backed or instant store backed. Okay, so again, only for EBS, you can start and stop. Because for instant store, okay, data is wiped when you stop it. Okay. The AMI will have the template for your root volume. So the operating system, the applications, libraries, utilities, okay, will have the launch permission, who can actually use this AMI, okay, and an initial block device mapping. What kind of hard disks will you need for your AMI? Okay. So first sources are pre-built, okay, or base AMI. So these are usually provided by the operating systems like Ubuntu, Windows, what do you call this? Mac, right? So the Red Hat. Okay, so these are pre-built or base. Okay. You can also get solutions that have not just the operating system, but also applications, libraries, and utilities. So for example, you want to launch a LAMP stack, a Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. And you can actually look at the marketplace that have been prepared by AWS partners for free or for a fee. Okay, so sometimes there is a cost, okay, to run their AMI that they have made. No, okay, you can create your own. Okay, so from, let's say, a initial AMI, base AMI, you want to install your applications there and then create your AMI for you. So you can have your own AMI. And lastly, you can even share that AMI. No? And likewise, use community AMIs shared by others. Just be careful with using community AMIs because, again, they're in the public domain. No? You don't really know who and what is in that AMI, right? So just be careful when you're using community AMIs. Right. Now, building AMIs for larger companies, no, they need to continuously maintain their golden AMI, an AMI that they have tested, they have installed applications, they have hardened. Okay, so there is a solution, okay, to help build that process called EC2 Image Builder. Okay, so this is the creation, maintenance, validation, and sharing and deployment of that AMI. Okay. Aside from AMI, it also supports import and export of other templates. No? And you might be familiar with some of these VHDX, VMDX, and OVF formats. So usually these are on-premise or VM imports, no? VM or virtual OpenVM templates. No, in AWS it's AMIs, but in on-premise you might support these formats. So again, you can see that using the image builder, it supports not just your AWS infrastructure, but also totally hybrid infrastructure as well. Okay. You can access this via console, CLI, or API as well. Okay. So what are the steps? Okay. First, you pick a base OS, okay, or base AMI. You select the software that will be installed. You run test, things like security, if does it build well, right? And after it has built, then you can distribute that images to your regions. Okay. Our EC2 also has a option to be EBS optimized. So for instances that need a lot of input output to their EBS, okay, you can have an EBS optimized instance. So there is a dedicated capacity for EBS. So it's not going to share the network, okay, not going to share the network for your EBS with other networking components, okay, because remember, physically your virtual machine and your EBS may not be in the same location, so they are network attached. Okay, so having this EBS optimized, there is another IO, another route dedicated just for your input output to your EBS. Okay, so again, it minimizes contention between your EBS and other traffic. Okay, so here are just some performance in terms of if you're using EBS optimized instances. Okay, and again, the network for that is between 425 to 14,000 Mbps. Okay. And also with EBS optimized instance, because they are EBS back, okay, you can also do hibernation. Okay, and when you're doing hibernation, basically whatever is in the RAM that is first stored in your EBS, so that when you resume, okay, when you return, much like your computer, whatever is stored in your EBS returns back to your RAM. Okay, that is EBS optimized instance, right? For AWS, you have multiple instance types, no? Not just the EBS optimized. So you can have things like general purpose, compute optimized, memory, graphic intensive, storage optimized, dense storage, accelerated computing, and much, much more. No? So there are many. Basically, what this slide is trying to convey to you is that per use case, there is usually a instance family that is good for you. Okay. Next, on demand, right? So how do we pay for our instances? We pay as you go, no contract, no commitment. Okay, so if you don't want to use it, no need anymore. Okay, just do take note that for Windows, it's hourly and partial is considered full. So even if you use for 5 minutes only, that is 1 hour. Okay, so it's per hour for Windows grouped. Okay, round up. Okay, for AWS Linux and Ubuntu, okay, AWS Linux and Ubuntu, it's per second. Okay, it's per second billing. And then for Mac, no, for Macintosh, it's the first 24 hours minimum, meaning you're billed for 1 day automatically. Okay, and then afterwards per second. Okay, so if you're just testing Mac, be careful, no, because you're billed 1 day automatically, minimum. Okay. On demand is ideal if you don't know the capacity in advance, because you're probably testing or you're just trying things out. Okay, so again, on demand is good for you. Okay, so this is a general starting point and also mission critical. Okay, as well. Reserving, okay, if let's say you already know what you want to do, okay, you can get a discount. Okay, so you pay in 1 year or 3 year contract. You say, hey, I want to reserve this for 1 year, or I want to do this in 3 years. No, so you can look at on demand as if like hotel. No, hotel. You walk in, you go hotel. Okay, napakamahal, right? In reserving, basically you're saying, hey, hotel, I'm gonna use you for 30 days. No, 30 days. You manage hotel, right? So since long term yung stay mo, usually you get a discount. Okay. Likewise, you also get discounts depending on how you pay. Do you pay it all upfront? Do you pay partial? Okay, parang may deposit ka, or basically no upfront. You're charged on a per month basis, no? But again, just remember, you have to commit. Okay, you have to commit to it. So even if you're not using this instance, because you're already committing to it, you will definitely pay. Okay, and in terms of types, no, types. Okay, you have your standard RI, meaning you won't change your reservation anymore. You have convertible. Okay, you can change it with equal or greater size. And you also have scheduled, no? Partially running, but on a schedule. You already mentioned, hey, I'm going to run this X every Sunday, X number of hours. Okay. Okay, again, this is ideal if capacity is known in advance. Okay. Okay, this actually guarantees supply versus on demand. So I would say, no, it's actually more mission critical to do reservation. Okay. But remember, this is a billing construct only. So what does this mean? This is a labeling only. Okay, when you launch an instance, you don't pick there, hey, when I launch, this is a reserved instance. It doesn't work like that. So what happens here is that it's a tagging, no? When you say, hey, I'm going to reserve a large instance, okay, and then during that period, okay, any on demand, okay, based on the number of reserved instance, okay, let's say you reserve one small instance, okay, one small instance reserved. And then you currently have three running on demand. Okay, so one reserve and 3 running on demand, right? So what happens there is that this one, okay, one reserve instance is actually tagged, okay, tagged to the running instance. And so that means technically you're paying for 2 on demand and 1 reserve instance. Okay, because again, right, that. So it doesn't matter if it's tagged to the first instance, the second instance, or third instance, doesn't matter. Okay, because it's only a tagging construct. Okay, so if you're running then 2, okay, and this is tagged here, this is tagged here, okay, it doesn't matter where it goes. Okay, however, let's say again you're running nothing, okay, you're still billed for 1 because you've already reserved that instance. Okay, so that is a billing construct only. Okay, savings plan are a little bit different. You also pay in 1 year or 3 years, but it offers most flexibility. Okay, and there are 2 types. It's compute savings plan or EC2 instance savings plan. Okay, so basically one is just talking about EC2. This is talking just about EC2. The other one is talking about, hey, I want to use EC2, Fargate, and other compute services such as Lambda. Okay, so what's the difference? We get a lot of discussions between reserve instance and savings plan. So let me try to give you an analogy. With reserve instance, okay, going back to our hotel analogy, reserve instance is you're going to say, hey, I want to reserve the King Suite. Okay, King Suite for 1 year. Wow, grabe, no? King Suite for 1 year, right? That is my reservation. Okay. With savings plan, okay, what you say here is that, hey, I don't know what type of room I will want to use, but I will guarantee you that I will spend 100,000 in 1 year with you. Okay, so that's you're basically saying in savings plan, it's all about money, money. Okay, give me flexibility. I will guarantee you I will spend 100,000 with you. Okay, and then later on, let's decide when I'm gonna use it, what I'm gonna use. Am I gonna use it for my EC2? Am I gonna use it for my Fargate? Am I gonna use it for my Lambda? Okay, later on, let's discuss that. Okay, so this is savings plan. Okay, so you'll notice that you can actually discount more on reserve, right? Because you basically tell AWS already na, hey, you already know what I want. Okay, right? It's a room that I want. Here in savings plan, you don't know if it's gonna be a room, it's gonna be for my meals, no? Parang pang breakfast ba, pang buffet nyo ba, ganyan, etc. So you have savings plan, but at least money is guaranteed. Okay. Lastly is spot instance. Okay, spot instance is unused excess capacity for EC2 only. So in AWS, okay, they have to maintain a large pool of servers because they never know how many users will request for a server. But that's why it's on demand. It would be bad if when you request a server, it's not available, diba? Parang nag-on demand ka pa, hindi mo naman pala ma-fulfill, right? So they do maintain excess capacity. So AWS, what does AWS do with that excess capacity? Sayang naman din if hindi nila ipapagamit. It's also running, there's also a machine, it's running, sayang. So what they did is they can offer it to the spot market or spot instance. So what they do here is offer that service or instances to you. You get a discount. Sabi nga dito, up to 90% discount. So it's very large discount, right? However, the caveat there is that it can be removed from you. Meaning, when it's no longer excess capacity, somebody requests it, pwede nilang tanggalin, right? They will give you a 2-minute warning though. Parang, hey, in 2 minutes, time ka na. Time ka na. Somebody's gonna use it. So, yeah. Okay. So I think my analogy here for spot instance, if naabutan niyo tong coffee shop, yung mga computer shops dati. Sometimes meron silang ganyan. Parang, hey, since walang customer siya, gamit ka. Pero the moment na may customer, kailangan ka nang umalis. Right? Kasi gagamitin na ng customer yon. Right? Parang ganun yung analogy with spot instance. Right? Next, another factor for our EC2 is your machine. No? Yung physical machine, whether you're shared, okay, so isang blade dito, may kasama kang other customers, you want it dedicated, so itong blade na to, sa'yo lang. Okay? Or gusto mo dedicated host, yung buong bare metal, sa'yo lang talaga. No? So either shared, dedicated instance, and dedicated host. Obviously, ito yung pinakamahal. Di ba? Obviously, yung pinaka-right. Okay? So let's, this is the default shared. No? So let's talk about dedicated instance ito. Okay? So it's not available for spot. No spot for dedicated instance. Okay? Usually use this for, again, regulatory or compliance. Okay? And we also have a AWS license manager if you want to use that as well. Hardware is dedicated to a single customer. Okay? So for example, isa lang naman talaga kailangan mo dito. No? Pero again, because you want it dedicated, nakuha mo yung buong blade. Right? Okay. The hardware is chosen randomly. Okay? So for example, this is your EC2 instance here. Okay? So yung buong blade na yan, gamit mo, shutdown mo. Okay? Shutdown mo. So wala na to dito. Pag start mo, pwede kang ilagay na lang dito. Okay? Pero at least sa'yo pa rin yung buong. Okay? So again, the hardware is randomly chosen. No? Okay? In terms of pricing, you pay per usage, and there's also a dedicated per region fee as well. For dedicated host, again, for not available spot, usually for more stricter compliance reason, and you need physical EC2. Okay? Specific. Gusto mo talagang ma-define yung hardware level, yung gusto mo malaman yung ilang cores, etc. Okay? O per ilang socket, per core software license. Okay? So this time, ikaw pipili ng instance family, and then basically with that, okay, bibigyan ka ng host ID. So yung host ID nito, sa'yo na yan. Okay? So with dedicated, with the host ID, when you launch an EC2 instance, pwede mo nang sabihin, hey, I'm gonna use this particular host ID, dito ko ilalagay. Pag launch ko ng EC2 instance, dito ko ilalagay. Okay? Because again, you now have access to the entire host. Diba? Okay, di ba ang piling-pili na sa'yo with dedicated host. When deploying your EC2 instances, you also define, or you can define where or how they're potentially distributed. No? So first is cluster together, meaning when you launch those multiple instances, you want them closer to each other. Use cases, when these instances have to talk to each other. No? They talk to each other. On the other spectrum is spread. Okay, so farther from each other. Okay, so as much as possible on separate physical machines, right? So this is mostly for resiliency, so that if there is a physical component that's wrong, yung others are not as affected. Or you can do partition. So basically, you have a grouping isolation. So sabihin mo, groups of 3 spread across X partitions. Okay, so again, there is no charge for placement groups. You just define where you want to deploy your EC2 instances across a availability zone. Okay. Lastly, all of these EC2, picking the family, picking the size, it could be difficult for some. So there is a report called AWS Compute Optimizer. Okay. And so running that report, usually it needs 7 days of running, initial running for a single instance, no? So that it can generate a report out of it. Okay, so it will recommend what is the ideal configuration for that instance based on its metric. Okay, so again, using machine learning, if it decides that, hey, this instance is compute heavy, you maybe want to change this to a C, a compute optimized family. Okay? Or it says, hey, change the size. No? So again, it's a report for you to help choose your optimal EC2 instance type and family. Okay, again, this is no additional charge for you. Right. Now, if you want to go simple, you're coming from maybe cPanel or other cloud providers that are simple and less services. There is a good service for you called Amazon Lightsail, which is a simpler, quick deployments and getting started on AWS. You basically, again, just simple, have a click to launch. So you have your operating system, you have stacks that you can pick, such as WordPress, Windows, Plesk, LAMP, etc. It also has a simple interface. Even the layout of the interface is simple for static IP, routing, load balancing. So hindi masyadong confusing yung itsura, no? Hindi ka ma-overwhelmed sa UI of the console. Okay, and also gives you simple things like backup and even the ability to help you move to EC2 even when you decide to move to EC2 later on. Okay. So it shows you, okay, this is Lightsail. It shows you a simplified idea. Like for example, hey, I want to spend around $10 per month. Okay, basically I can have 1 gig RAM, 1 VP CPU, ganyan, etc. Okay, so it already shows you the per month. Okay. Then picking an operating system or picking an application or picking the stack. A very simple UI design. Okay, so let's look at the video explanation of Amazon Lightsail.
Developers are passionate about their projects, but don't want to spend extra time or money focusing on cloud management. They need a cloud platform that offers the fastest, easiest, and most affordable way to get up and running. Amazon Lightsail does just that. As a one-stop shop to set up and manage a variety of applications and websites, Lightsail allows developers to do it all with instances, databases, in-console networking, and more. It's powerfully simple with click-to-launch blueprints designed to provide customers with an easy-to-use interface while offering a rich feature set. Once it's up and running, it's simple to operate and maintain applications, services, and instances in a secure and efficient way. It has a low set monthly price with bundled plans that support common business and application scenarios. These include all basic components such as virtual servers, managed databases, load balancers, networking, monitoring, and alarms. As customer needs change and grow, they can upgrade to a different plan or add resources such as databases and load balancers, all for a fixed monthly price. Lightsail is built on the world's leading cloud platform, and its computing is based on the same highly available and reliable AWS cloud infrastructure used by over 1 million customers worldwide. Developers can now get projects up and running as fast as possible with an easy-to-use cloud platform. Leave cloud maintenance to Lightsail so developers can focus on their code. Get started today.
All right, so that was Lightsail, no? Okay.
Hi, I'm Mike Coleman, and I'm a developer advocate at Amazon Web
Pause
Services.
ko lang saglit. Kasi nagpe-play pa rin yung YouTube ko. Right. And the last compute service, is basically containers, containers. So with containers, again, you have your hardware, okay, you have a container engine, and then you have your containers inside. Okay, so our containers are basically package software together with your operating system, our OS hooks, your libraries, and their dependencies. No? So it's this OS level virtualization. You have a shared kernel. It was popularized by Docker. Okay, popularized by Docker, but there's actually other container services before. But now it's synonymous. Docker equals containers. No? Use cases, for example, your local dev, staging, test, okay, and production. Basically, they have the same environment, no, or the same running behavior. And also, when you have services that are even smaller than your smallest EC2, like, you know, smallest EC2 right now is nano size. So if you have services even smaller than that, okay. AWS services that are related to containers are ECS, EKS, Fargate. You know, you can launch them also in Beanstalk, Lambda, Lightsail, and UpRunner, and many more. No, so we'll talk about containers again more on microservices and serverless later on. Okay, so any questions on compute so far? Okay, or can get someone give me a question?
I have a question about the spot instance slide.
Sure, sure.
At the bottom kasi parang sabi previously you have to provide like a bid amount. So does that mean na hindi na siya ganun ngayon, or?
Right. So previously, medyo weird yung implementation ng spot instance, no? Which is basically, what you do is you tell AWS how much you're willing to pay it for, no? So what happens ultimately before is that parang to really maximize, no, to maximize your spot instance, minsan parang nagkaka-bidding war yung nangyayari, because some of you you'll have layers of, for example, yung ginawa namin before, gumawa kami ng auto scaling with multiple layers with different bid prices, no? Para if hindi ko makuha at this price, makukuha ko at this price, makukuha ko at this price, or even hindi makukuha at this price, no? So right now, ang nangyayari, if I remember correctly, no, is basically you just tell AWS that you will want to run a spot instance, no? And basically, what happens there is that yung calculation ng price, is already done for you based on ano yung available, no? Hindi na siya as as before na parang magkaka-bidding war ka with other customers. Parang mas na siya, mas I guess mas user friendly na, I would say. May isang company kasi before, ang company tawag niya is parang spot ints ata, ganun yung company, at yun lang yung company nila, no, to moving your instances to spot. And then pag alam na nilang malapit na ano yung price, tatanggalin nila, ililipat na sa EC2. So medyo complex yung spot instance bidding dati. Right now hindi na siya ganoon, sasabihin mo lang na you want to use a spot instance and you're okay na it will shut down within 2 minutes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Actually, yeah, add ko lang pala to, dati no, kasi super dati pa to na meron ng spot instance. May times na you can actually even bid higher than on demand, no? which doesn't make sense, right? Pero ganun dati, pwede mo pang taasan than on demand.
All right, thank you.
Talaga siyang super free market dati. Right. We also have a comment, no, not really a question here. We tried Lightsail for WordPress before, but eventually found that Eleventy, Strappy sa CMS, and S3 is better combo for us. Yeah, pwede yun, pwede. I guess depends for every use case, no? There's actually I think a lot of WordPress plugins or a WordPress, what they do, they have a WordPress to S3. So they just turn on the WordPress for their CMS, and then they have a parang renderer of that page into S3, and then basically they shut down their WordPress afterwards. Para they're not serving the actual traffic out of the WordPress Lightsail, they're actually serving the traffic from Lightsail. Yung WordPress nila is talaga pang back-end generation of the content. So that's a good combination din, yung plugin na yun. I think it's WordPress for parang S3 render WordPress, something like that. Right, cool. So since I got my one question na, so I'll move on unless may gusto pang magdagdag ng question, no? Okay. So the next part is now storage. Okay. Meron tayong question dito. Naka-private sa akin, no? Is there a performance benefit using compute optimized versus GP if they have the same specs? Okay, balik tayo dito sa ating compute optimized versus GP graphics. So if I would say a general purpose versus compute optimized, no? If they have the same specs, naka 4 core naman and naka 2 gig RAM. Actually, that's a good question, no? I think wala. Because I haven't seen, baka, and correct me if I'm wrong, no? I haven't seen yung same sila, pero same yung specs. Parang same size and same specs. Usually kasi, pag let's say from general purpose, ang distribution kasi nito is parang 1-1-1, no? Parang more or less ganyan. I think 1-1-1. Yung equal parts of CPU, equal parts of memory, okay, and equal parts of network. While sa compute optimized, parang 2-1-1, no? Which is basically yung distribution na is for every 1 RAM or 1% size of RAM, about 2 CPU. Sa memory naman baliktad, no? It's like 1-1, ganyan. So I haven't seen a size na parehong-pareho. So if you have one, let me know, no? And maybe it will be on price na. But in terms of performance, kung exactly the same yung specs, and when I say exactly the same, it has to be exactly the same, no? Because let's say when you're computing, let's say itong accelerated computing versus compute, no? Obviously, yung accelerated, mayroon pa yung additional hardware, or even let's say sa graphic intensive, may graphics card ka na. So may ibang hardware na rin yan, right? So that is the question sa performance. If exactly the same yung inner hardware or inner yung vCPU, RAM, and network, then potentially walang masyadong benefit difference, no? Aside from price, maybe. All right, so let's move on. I'll just wait if may mag-message din. Just feel free, by the way, to leave a message, questions at any time. So punta naman tayo sa storage. Okay, so for storage, okay, we have AWS Simple Storage Service, or S3. It's a safe, secure, highly scalable storage. Use case niya itong cloud storage, right? I mentioned web hosting, 99.99% availability, 11 nines of durability, and we already know yung example nito, no? From our cloud practitioner sessions pa. Okay. So what are more?
Sorry to interrupt. Is it just me, or am I, oh, there you go. Sorry. Nag-update yung slides.
Right. Nag-pause ata yung slides ko. Right. So S3, again, we already know this from our previous sessions of Cloud Practitioner. So what are other features of S3? Medyo deep dive tayo sa S3 pa. Kasi solutions architect na tayo. Okay. So in terms of security, of course, that's private by default. You have your access control list. Okay. That's written in XML. You have your JSON your bucket policies written in JSON. You can also have a visual editor for that. And you can actually have S3 access points. No? So parang in other words, kahit the same bucket siya, you can create individual access points. So that means you can control access points. So you're not sharing access points between different departments. So sabihin mo, hey, even if same bucket yung gagamitin natin, I have a read-only access point. Okay, read-only access point. So that if i-share ko to sa iba, alam kong hindi ko hindi accidentally mag-change yung permission kasi yung sa access point na yun, read-only lang yun. And or mag-add ako ng another access point, sasabihin ko, hey, this access point is for developers, no? Maglalagay ako ng policy doon na pang developers lang. So again, if the endpoint, no, yun sa when you write it, additional security, no, versus just using the default S3 bucket access point, no? So you can have multiple access points. So that's something you can definitely and you would want to use as well. No? Next, bucket MFA bucket delete. Okay, so for accidental delete, you can also add MFA or multi-factor authentication. So answers, you must have your phone or you must have that device with you to even delete a bucket. We already know that versioning is allowed with S3. Okay, so when you enable versioning, and new objects, even if they have the same key or same file name, they get a version. No? So nagpa-pile up ka ng version. With S3, you can also do object lock. Okay, meaning you can put rules so that you can do a write once, read many. Okay, once it's written, it cannot be modified anymore. Okay, so you have those policies in place. Okay, you can do multi-part upload via API or CLI or sabihin natin SDK, right? Where you want to chop out anything, let's say beyond 5 MB, you want to break that, upload it simultaneously, and then combine it back in S3. And lastly, we have S3 accelerated transfer, so that if your bucket is far away, your users are in another part of the world, you can use the edge locations. You can use the edge locations as a pointer. So that the users actually just upload to the edge location, and then from the edge location, it uses AWS internal backbone to reach to the bucket. Okay? So parang ito yung parang reverse ng CloudFront, di ba? CloudFront from the origin, papunta ng edge to the user. Okay? So ito naman pabaliktad. Ikaw magpo-post to the bucket. So gusto mo mag-post to the edge location. Next, we have Glacier. No? Glacier for our storage archive. No? Glacier, you can consider Glacier as a storage class. Okay, or you can also consider it as a service. Okay, so again, it's low storage cost. Data is rarely retrieved. Okay, but if you want to use it, immediately, just to take note of this, your standard retrieval is 3 to 5 hours. When you request it, maghihintay ka pa ng 3 to 5 hours bago siya maging available. Okay, if madami siya lang kukunin mo, so this is just one item. By doing bulk, at least you can, let's say you're getting 5, no? You can do a bulk retrieval, so 5 to 12 hours. Or if you really want it immediate, in 1 to 5 minutes, yung first byte, you can pay extra rush fee using Expedite. Okay. In Glacier, instead of buckets and objects, we call it Vault and Archives. Okay. Similar to our S3, which has object lock, we also have Vault lock. Okay. Okay, and again, compliance using the policy. Do take note that Vault lock, there's an extra step here. Policy becomes immutable. Once you make a policy for your Vault, even root account and even AWS support cannot modify that policy anymore. Okay? So pag sinabi mong, let's say, gumawa ka ng policy, so sabihin mo, hey, this Vault this vault, anything inside the vault cannot be deleted ever. No? Yan yung sinabi mong policy. Okay, tapos na enforce na yung policy. Right? Tapos may nilagay kang item doon sa vault na yon, hindi na yan matatanggal ever. Okay? Ever. Unless siguro i-shut down mo yung AWS account. Or otherwise, hindi na matatanggal yun ever. Okay? Let's say yung policy mo medyo weird pa. Let's say sabi mo read only but only to the a particular user. No? Tapos eventually delete mo yung user na yun. Nako, goodbye. Hindi mo na ma-read yun ever. Kasi again, the policy is immutable. Right? So just be careful with vault policies. Okay? Kasi immutable yun. Right? From S3 Glacier, to get the items or to read the items, you don't actually need to retrieve them and put them to S3. No? You can actually query the items inside Glacier using SQL statements using Athena. Okay, there is such a thing called S3 Glacier Select. So without retrieving or restoring the file, pwede mo nang i-get yung content using Glacier. Okay, and there's another deeper and cheaper storage class called S3 Glacier Deep Archive. Okay, lowest cost once or twice a year. Okay. And add ko lang pala dito, wala sa slides, no? S3, we all know that it's 5 terabyte, yung maximum object, okay? Maximum object, 5 terabyte. With Glacier, okay, it can go up to 40, I think it's 40 terabyte. Okay, so you can actually store a larger object, okay, in Glacier, okay, up to 40 terabyte. So storage classes in S3, we have our standard for unknown or changing access. S3, standard infrequent access. So these are access less frequently but requires rapid access. So hindi mo masyadong ginagamit, pero once you need it, you can immediately read it. Okay. S3 one zone, infrequent access. Okay, so basically you decide that I just want this one zone. Okay, where you don't require availability or resilience as much. Use cases are secondary backups or, for example, S3 cross-region replications. Because anyway, you already have a standard or infrequent in another region, so you're okay with this one to be secondary. There's also an older class, okay, an older class called S3 reduced redundancy storage. Okay, and you can see it's 99 durability. Sinacrifice niya yung durability niya and only 99 availability. Not recommended. And if you're inheriting a previous AWS account, check if meron pang reduced redundancy because it's actually more expensive than standard already. Dati pa to, no? Is that cheaper ang R3. Dati pa. Nabutan mo yung EC2 Classic. But now, they've lowered the price of S3 standard over time. Yung economies of scale nga, na cheaper na yung standard kaysa S3 reduced redundancy. So there's really no need to use this reduced redundancy anymore. Okay. Right. So Glacier itself, may bagong storage class. This is relatively new. Okay. S3 Glacier Instant Retrieval Storage Class. Okay, so archiving siya. Okay, while still making it available in milliseconds. So para siyang, I guess, para siyang ito, no? But I guess less as fast, I would say. No? Okay, so Glacier pa rin siya. Instant retrieval storage. Why is it important? Especially, let's say, more than 5 terabyte yung file mo. Right? Okay, so ito yung S3 Glacier Flexible Retrieval. So ito yung dating S3 Glacier. So ito yung may standard, batch, and bulk. So in other words, ito medyo expedited na to. S3 Glacier Deep Archive. Okay, ito yung dati pa, lowest storage. Basically, you access that archive 1 to 2 in a year for mga financial service, healthcare, yung mga kailangan ng 7 to 10 years or longer. And a good alternative to magnetic tape systems kasi mas mahal pa yung magnetic tape. Okay. And there are ways, parang V-tape, no? There are drivers. You can consider this like a V-tape. So if you're already using tape protocols, then you can use this as a V-tape, okay, virtual tape drive. Lastly, there is a storage class called Amazon S3 Intelligent Tiering. Okay. And dapat tab to, no? These are used for long-lived data with access patterns that are unknown or unpredictable. Okay, why? Bakit? Ang ginagawa ng S3 Intelligent Tiering, okay, so these are tiers or storage classes, right? It can switch the storage classes based on the access pattern. So let's say sa simula, madami siyang ginagamit, so dito siya sa standard. Tinag siya as standard ni Intelligent Tiering. Okay? After a while, napansin ni Intelligent Tiering, hey, this file is no longer being used. Sige, lipat ko to infrequent. Okay, linipat niya to infrequent. Tapos biglang, nagkaroon ng throwback Thursday. Biglang suddenly, yung file na yon naging viral ulit. So bumalik ulit siya ng S3 standard. Okay, so parang machine learning storage class. Okay, so you just pay additional minimal fee for that machine learning management fee. Okay. All right. You can also, instead of machine learning, if you have your own policy, you can have a life cycle policy. So you can also put in days. No? You want to say, hey, after 30 days, gusto ko ilipat dito. After 60 days, gusto ko ilipat dito. After 100 days, gusto ko i-delete. Right? So you can also have a time-based, not access-based, time-based policy called S3 Lifecycle Policy. Okay, so this is an example of the access pattern-based policy using S3 Intelligent Tiering. Okay, lilipat-lipat niya to a storage class. Okay, that's a good diagram for the access-based. Tapos ito yung time-based that you can do. Right. Other features of S3. Kala nyo, tapos pa yung S3. Pero ang dami pa ang pwede mong gawin sa S3. Okay, for in terms of reporting, we have the S3 inventory, S3 analytics storage class analysis, S3 storage lens, S3 batch operations, S3 select, yung Athena nga. You can get the content of the CSV, etc. without even having to download the original file. Meron din tayong S3 Object Lambda. Okay, very good to. Para tong basically, this is like putting a Lambda in front of S3. No? So that what happens there is that Lambda triggers before it hits S3. So if you want to do something else, parang bago kang parang basically imagine mo na S3 is like your face, no? Example, the S3 object is a face, no? Depending sa S3 object lambda na pointer mo, okay? Parang pwede kang mag-run ng something before siya i-return. So something like, hey, kung face mo yan, no? Kung ganito yung nag-call sa akin, magme-makeup ako. Ganyan, magme-makeup ako. Okay, so before ko i-return sa user. Okay, so mag-run yung lambda. Kung ganito naman, ganito yung iba yung tumawag, instead na mag-makeup ako, maybe, aside from makeup, ano ba yung other? Magka-clown face ako, Or kung ganito yung tumawag, adi wala akong i-run na lambda. Okay, so merong mga ganyang bagay na basically yung lambda, parang simplified version, no? For instead na ikaw pa tatawag sa lambda, tapos lambda tatawag sa S3, parang ginawa nila na parang pre-packaged together. Right? So S3 object lambda. Okay? Then meron din tayong S3 multi-region access point. So para lang siyang kanina sa S3, saan ba yun? Access points, at this time for global, no? Multi-region access point na siya. Faster retrieval to a S3 bucket in multi-region deployments. Right. So let's look at our video for S3 again.
Customers often have multiple applications consuming information from a single set of data in Amazon S3, but each requiring different variations of the data to meet their specific needs. One application might operate on CSVs, while another uses JSON. Another may need to read some sensitive data, while the other should have portions of that data redacted. Traditionally, to provide multiple applications with the right data, you'd have to either transform the requested data in real time by using a proxy in front of S3, which you'd then need to manage, or you'd have to create and store additional derivative copies of the data so that each application has its own custom-built dataset. In both cases, you'd be responsible for building and operating custom data processing software on additional infrastructure and storage, which adds complexity and cost. Now, with Amazon S3 Object Lambda, you can automatically invoke any AWS Lambda function when retrieving objects from S3, enabling you to process and deliver customized objects to different applications. You can mask sensitive data for security and compliance, compress objects, change data formats to ensure application compatibility, filter data to deliver specific information, or customize data however else your specific use case demands. S3 Object Lambda makes it easy to process and transform data without having to build and operate additional software and infrastructure or create derivative copies of your data. And it has all the features and capabilities of AWS Lambda. You can start using S3 Object Lambda functions with just a few steps in the S3 Management Console. S3 will automatically invoke your specified Lambda function during an S3 GET request and stream the processed data from the function back to your application. To learn more about Amazon S3 Object Lambda, please visit the feature page linked below.
So that was the S3 Object Lambda. No? Use cases that I could see for it potentially for myself. No, for example.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here again today at the Loft here in San Francisco.
Yeah, use cases for me, for example, yung mga you want to minify JavaScript, before they're being returned. So that's a example I could think of for me personally. Right. So I know it's 5 o'clock, 3 to 5 lang pala yung session natin. Let me just double check how many slides left. If we should cut here or there's a better place to cut. Double check pa lang. Yeah, medyo mahaba-haba pa. So I guess we will cut at our Ops 3, S3 service at present. So I'll check with the rest of you if you want to cut here or we will continue. So again, audience vote.
Vote A if
Michelle?
continue, tapos B. B for stop.
Yeah, I guess we can go ahead and cut it then sa slide 39, Rafi. Oh, somebody said that she's still good for 30 minutes. A to continue, B to stop, A for 30 minutes. Wow.
Sige, malapit.
Sulitin
Medyo...
oh, yan. Sulitin niyo si Rafi.
Let's see. Let's play this one more, and while you are voting, I'll just play this one more. Kanina yung Object Lambda, S3 Object Lambda na video yun. Tingnan natin. This one is yung S3 Multi.
Customers want an easy way to store, replicate, and access copies of Amazon S3 data in multiple AWS regions. Achieving this used to be challenging. You used to have to create regionally isolated copies of your data wherever in the world you needed them using S3 replication. Then, to access these multi-region datasets, you used to need to build logic into your multi-region applications to route requests to the correct regional copy of your data. As a result, your applications used to need to keep track of which clients route to which AWS regions. This complexity used to be difficult to manage. Used to. Now, with Amazon S3 multi-region access points, You can accelerate and simplify storage for multi-region applications. S3 multi-region access points provide a single global endpoint to access a replicated dataset spanning multiple buckets in S3. Application requests made to a multi-region access point's global endpoint automatically route over the AWS network to the S3 bucket with the lowest network latency, which can help applications run up to 60% faster. This lets your multi-region applications take advantage of the global infrastructure of AWS, avoiding congested network segments on the public internet and improving application performance to run anywhere in the world, all while maintaining a simple, region-agnostic architecture. Whether your application is running on premises or within AWS, they can also connect to a multi-region access point via AWS Private Link. Establishing a private link connection to a multi-region access point allows you to route S3 requests into AWS or across multiple AWS regions over a private connection using a very simple network architecture and configuration. In addition to providing new ways to route application requests to Amazon S3, multi-region access points also delivers a new user experience for managing all aspects of a multi-region S3 setup. In the S3 Management Console, multi-region access points show a centralized view of the underlying replication topology, replication metrics, and request routing configuration for your multi-region S3 deployment. This gives you an even easier way to build, manage, and monitor storage for multi-region applications. To learn more about S3 multi-region access points, please visit the feature page linked below.
Right. So that was the good. Hindi nag-autoplay. Good. That was the multi-region, no? Multi-region S3.
My name is Peter. I'm a member of the Amazon S3 product management team. I'll talk to you about a new feature called Amazon S3 multi-region access points. Let's go.
Sabi ko, yay, hindi nag-autoplay bigla. Right. So siguro tapusin, I'll try to bilisan ko lang, no? Itong module na to, at least matapos natin yung module, no? Okay. Right. So if you're not gonna use object storage, which is basically if there's something modified, everything has to be modified. If you want to use block storage, parang changing of bits lang. So one file actually composes of many bits inside, or many blocks inside. So whatever that block is changed, only that block is changed. No? So you have your EBS, Elastic Block Store. So para siyang virtual. As I mentioned before, parang imagine mo lang parang external hard drive. No? So it's a storage volume. It's network attached, ideally to a single EC2. No? If you need multiple, then you can use EFS, FSX instead. No? It's placed in a single availability zone. Okay, you can deploy it. You can make a copy and then put it another availability zone, but each EBS is under one availability zone only. And you have many volume types. Okay, itong SSD, okay, yung general purpose or provision. You put the input and output per second that you want. Or you can use the older version, the HDD or magnetic. You can have throughput optimized or cold. No? Right. Okay, so again, just a comparison or review of our cloud practitioner of the use cases when using these different types of EBS. Okay. Okay. Things that additional knowledge, just in case to refresh, EBS encryption must happen during creation. Okay, so you cannot decide after it's been created that you decide, hey, I want to encrypt this. No, so you'll have to create that during creation. If you have an EBS and you want to encrypt that, what you can do is create a snapshot. No, create a snapshot. Then once you deploy it, okay, you restore the snapshot. Then you create it as encrypted. Okay, but any running or present EBS, the encryption must be done during creation. Okay, we already mentioned this EBS snapshots. So you can have by default incremental snapshots. But lately, they released a full snapshot as well, option for you if you want to do full snapshots. Now, remember these snapshots, they are backups. They do take up space, no? And potentially there's a cost for you. So you can have a lifecycle manager, okay, Amazon Data Lifecycle Manager, to manage your EBS snapshots so that after X, hindi na sila ginagamit, then they can be deleted. Okay, so another area for your storage, no, is your instance store. They are physically connected to the EC2. So that's why if you look at the diagram here, this is your instance, this is your machine, no, this is your machine. The instance store, okay, is connected to the machine, right? Okay, so of course, since they're closer, they're not network attached. They have faster input and output on the EBS. But this is only useful for temporary data, such as buffer, caches, scratch data, and other temporary content. Why? Because when you stop or start, especially for EBS instances, when you start and stop, let's say ito instance A, no? Once you stop it here, and when you start it, okay, it doesn't mean that instance A will resume this host. It could actually be run in computer 2. Because it's running on computer 2, okay, it does not have any more access to the instance store previously. It's going to use new instance store. Okay, so that's why when you start and stop your instance store, when you stop and start your instances, instance stores are wiped out. Okay, so if you need something persistent, you use EBS instead. Okay, so again, recap: instance store, ephemeral, hardware attached; EBS is persistent, network attached. Use cases for buffer, caches, scratch data; EBS, durable, detachable, a block level storage. That is what your EBS is for. Okay, for multiple shared instances, okay, you can use EFS instead. Okay, it's a simple, scalable, elastic access concurrent file system and available across availability zones. So not just one AZ. Unlike EBS, okay, it's only one AZ. Okay, with EFS, you have multiple AZ. You can actually also do multiple regions and VPC if you're peering them together. Okay, and VPC peer actually supports multi-regions, right, and multiple VPCs. So your EFS can also do that already. Okay, you can also use EFS for on-premise using Direct Connect or VPN. Okay, so you can even use the shared file system, even on a hybrid. Okay, in terms of protocol, okay, it uses the NFS version 4 and version 4.1. Okay, and not all AMI come with default able to connect to EFS. You'll have to install a NFS client for some. Okay, in terms of storage classes, EFS also has the standard and infrequent access. So again, obviously standard, much more expensive; infrequent, cheaper. Okay, for throughput, okay, so aside from storage class, you also have throughput, no? The default bursting or provision. So you can even define the IOPS as well. Okay, and again, these storage class and throughput will affect your pricing. Okay, so let's look at our EFS video.
As you modernize your applications and transform your business, you need scalable, agile cloud file storage that minimizes your administrative overhead. Amazon Elastic File System provides a simple, serverless, set-and-forget Elastic File System for AWS compute services. Amazon EFS is serverless, enabling you to build and run applications without worrying about managing and provisioning infrastructure. And because it's elastic, your file system automatically grows and shrinks as you add and remove files. Designed for the vast majority of file workloads, from latency-sensitive applications to highly parallelized scale-out jobs requiring high throughput, Amazon EFS is ideal for machine learning, web serving, and content management, and everything in between. Build modern applications with AWS containers, serverless, and Amazon EFS. Elastically scaling, persisting, and sharing data with zero management required. Amazon EFS is designed for 11 nines of durability, is highly available, and is natively integrated with AWS Backup, so your data is available whenever it's needed. It also provides concurrent access for tens of thousands of connections for EC2 instances, containers, and AWS Lambda functions. Plus, you pay only for the storage you use, with no minimum storage requirements. Amazon EFS offers standard storage classes that store your data redundantly across 3 availability zones, as well as one-zone storage classes, which store your data redundantly in a single availability zone. Lifecycle management automatically and transparently moves files accessed less frequently to cost-optimized infrequent access storage classes. Using the industry-accepted estimate that 80% of data is infrequently accessed, Lifecycle management delivers significant cost savings to you automatically. Get started with Amazon EFS today and create a file system in seconds with a few clicks in the AWS console.
Right. So that was EFS. No. There's another video about EFS, but we'll skip that because it's just the same. Okay. So you've noticed that EFS is generally used for Linux, no? So if you need other file systems and specialized file systems shared for Windows, okay, we have FSX for Windows. For HPC or high performance compute, you have Lustre. For those using NetApp on tap and OpenZFS, no? Ito mga medyo specialized na shared file system na to, right? For FSX Windows, okay, it uses the SMB protocol. Very good when using with Windows NTFS, and if you have your Active Directory, no, yung Windows user management pool and permissions. Okay, so FSX for Windows file server. Okay, it can also be mounted used by EC2 Linux as well. No? So kung medyo hybrid kayo in terms of operating system, then you can use Windows file server instead. Okay, again, for anything high performance like this, we have Lustre for HPC. It is again, for that particular set, it also has its own guidelines. Okay. So let's look at a video about FSX.
Organizations of all sizes are moving their enterprise applications to the AWS cloud. And many of these workloads, including business applications, home directories, and web serving, depend on Windows-compatible shared file storage. Managing Windows file storage on your own is time-consuming and costly, and this administrative overhead takes you away from serving your customers. Introducing Amazon FSX for Windows File Server, providing fully managed Windows file servers backed by a native Windows file system with the features, performance, security, and compatibility to easily lift and shift enterprise applications to AWS. Amazon FSX for Windows File Server is fully managed, so it eliminates your time-consuming administrative tasks of setting up and provisioning file servers, keeping Windows updated, detecting and addressing hardware failures, and performing backups. Designed for the enterprise, Amazon FSX provides highly available and durable storage that is automatically encrypted at rest and in transit is PCI DSS compliant and HIPAA eligible. It also automatically takes durable daily backups. Built on Windows Server, Amazon FSX provides Windows native shared file storage that supports the Windows file system features that you use today. This enables your current applications and tools to work without changes. Amazon FSX provides the throughput, IOPS, and consistent sub-millisecond latencies needed for your enterprise workloads. Amazon FSX for Windows File Server is accessible from in-cloud instances with the industry-standard SMB protocol. With full Microsoft Active Directory support, Amazon FSX is integrated with your existing Windows environment. Amazon FSx for Windows File Server makes it easy to lift and shift your Windows-based enterprise applications to AWS. Learn more at aws.amazon.com/fsx/windows.
All right. Ano yung close ko na para hindi mag-auto run. Okay, this is just another FSX, but a different, different kind of FSX. No? So we'll just skip that. Okay. So other options to move data into the cloud. Okay. Of course, your online data transfer, direct connect, okay, that dedicated line, S3 accelerated transfer. So moving using the edge locations to your bucket. Okay. Kinesis Firehose, data sync, and transfer family. These are other services in AWS that we might that are available to you as well. Though. For offline, okay, you can actually move data offline. So there is a device that will be shipped to you. Parang, there's like a suitcase or a hard drive that is sent to you. You load it, and then you ship it back. Even as big as a container, a 40-foot container called Snow Mobile. Okay. And of course, for totally hybrid, you can create a storage gateway appliance, okay, that mimics parang rsync. It syncs your volumes to EBS or syncs a particular tape to S3 and so on and so forth. So a totally hybrid connection. Right. So earlier I mentioned data sync. No? So again, data sync is more towards like a scheduled copy. No? Between S3, EFS, and FSX. Okay, you can use. You have to install an agent. Okay, a data sync agent, and you can transfer over NFS or SMB. Okay, so here's a video for data sync.
Transferring active data sets online can be complicated. Between writing scripts for transfers, expensive software tools, and time and network constraints, it often requires unnecessary heavy lifting. Now, AWS DataSync makes transferring data fast and easy. Whether you're closing data centers or retiring storage arrays, pushing data from on-premises systems for processing in AWS, or you have a massive amount of files to protect, you can use DataSync to copy active datasets rapidly into Amazon S3, Amazon EFS, or Amazon FSx for Windows File Server. Connect DataSync to your existing storage systems with local agents, and the service simply, rapidly, and securely migrates your data to the cloud. DataSync scales to meet your needs by taking care of the infrastructure in the cloud to move data at network speeds, and it integrates natively with AWS storage to optimally manage transfers. DataSync's network optimizations improve performance and accelerate your transfers using a purpose-built protocol and parallel streams, so you can move data up to 10 times faster than with open-source tools. Whether your data is in transit or at rest, it is encrypted, and you can have an automatic integrity check done to make sure it arrives intact. DataSync is cost-effective since you pay only for the data copied and avoid the burden of managing infrastructure or buying expensive file transfer software. Get started with AWS DataSync today for your data migrations. Learn more at aws.amazon.com/datasync.
Right, so that was DataSync. Okay, now for FTP, right? If you've used FTP before, if you want to have a managed service for FTP, there's also the AWS Transfer Family for SFTP. Okay, so it will create an FTP server for you, and eventually we'll place that in S3. No? So again, you will have a managed FTP server, and then the data is stored in S3. So our video for FTP or SFTP transfer family.
Securely sharing files using SFTP is imperative for many businesses, but running your own servers and infrastructure can be an operational hassle. AWS Transfer for SFTP fixes that. As a fully managed service, AWS SFTP enables the secure transfer of files into and out of Amazon S3. Getting started is simple since there is no infrastructure to set up. With AWS SFTP, we operate and manage all of the infrastructure necessary to maintain high availability and performance. AWS autoscaling means you never have to worry about keeping up with your end user's data transfer activity. And you can seamlessly migrate your workflows to the service, so nothing changes for your partners, customers, or internal teams. Whether you're working with large technical documents, media files, or invoices, AWS SFTP supports recurring or occasional data sharing processes. Working with common authentication systems, your users always have the correct secure access to exchange important files. Your files are durably stored in your Amazon S3 bucket, enabling you to use them with your CRM or ERP applications, or process them in your data lake with any analytics or machine learning service to extract business insights. Focus on your business and let AWS take care of your file transfers with our secure, scalable, reliable, and fully managed SFTP service. Get started today at aws.amazon.com/SFTP.
Right. So that was your SFTP. So you'll notice here that usually like there's a service, FTP has been there for quite some time, and basically AWS just makes managed services for you so that you don't have to really manage it on your own. No, so that's why it's good to always use this managed services. It's easier for you in the long run. Okay, so as I was mentioning, moving data to the cloud, we have Snowball. You can look at this as like a briefcase. Okay, it's a petabyte scale data transport option. They ship it to you. You basically plug it into your own device or network and then copy, and then you ship it back. Okay, that is Snowball. Snowmobile, okay, a larger version. Okay, it's a 45-footer truck. Okay, yeah. And again, there's a lot of security audit as well for this. Okay, so let's look at Snowball Edge.
Sometimes you need to do more than just transfer data, like, analyze it, or run a custom app in a remote location, even on a truck or on a ship. That's what Snowball Edge can do. With embedded computing power and support for EC2 AMIs and AWS Lambda, you can run virtualized applications at the edge as you would in the cloud. Like running analytics or machine learning at the data collection point, pre-processing IoT sensor or log data, or transcoding media streams, without having to get it to the cloud to process it. For example, in manufacturing, you can efficiently monitor equipment health data without investing in expensive infrastructure. Or on vehicles that travel long distances without a network connection, you can collect and analyze data without having to wait to get to the cloud. Or in harsh mining or energy operations that lack reliable connectivity, you can pre-process, filter, and transform without storage costs or a lag time to react. In any case, you just connect one or more Snowball Edge devices to your on-premises network, integrating with your workflows through standard data storage interfaces. Collect up to 100 terabytes of data, or even reach petabyte scale by clustering multiple Snowball Edge devices while running the compute tasks you need for immediate results. Then send the devices back to AWS. Your data will be migrated to the cloud, where it can connect to all our other powerful AWS services in the shortest time possible. Get started today with just a few clicks. Learn more at aws.amazon.com/snowballedge.
Right. So this is just another video similar to Snowball. Ano naman to? This is the Snow Pipe. So it's a smaller device. But again, very similar. So let's skip that as well. Okay. So this is the storage gateway. Again, this is your device for a true hybrid solution. Okay. So it provides low latency access for AWS to AWS and from AWS for your on-premise. No? So depending on your option, deployment option, okay, you have 3 types of storage gateway. Okay. So on-premise, these are the supported ones, you know, VMware, Hyper-V, Linux KVM. You can also have a hardware appliance, no, in your on-premise, okay, and on the cloud. For those that are using virtual VMware, okay, there's a storage gateway VM also in VM Cloud, okay, and you can also have an AMI, no, AMI launch in EC2, okay, to help you with this storage gateway. Okay, so I was saying there are 3 types of storage gateway. So tape drives, if your on-premise has tape drive, okay, you can have the tape gateway. Okay, so with tape gateway, it says iSCSI based virtual tape library. So basically, you know, when you write to this tape gateway, when you write to this tape gateway, it's actually stored in S3, and then you can have, let's say, a lifecycle policy to store it in Glacier. Okay, if you're doing a file gateway, an NFS SMB, this is stored in Amazon S3, okay, as an object. For volume gateway, so hard disks, no, using SCSI protocol, this is stored as a EBS snapshot naman, so that you can restore this as a EBS. Okay, so depending on your storage gateway, you can have either a volume or cached volume or a stored volume. And the main difference here, if you notice, okay, in the cached volume, okay, cache volume versus the stored volume, no, is basically yung storage distribution. Okay, so basically in this case, okay, let me remember, with cached, okay, with cached, that means only the most frequent items that are needed on premise are stored on the on-premise gateway. Okay, my mouse is not helping so much. No, again, only the most common files or most common objects are in your hardware, in your physical on-premise. Okay, while on the stored volume architecture, okay, a lot of it's a duplicate copy, no, duplicate copy talaga. So yes, that's why you can see here in the disk, there's more storage that you need, okay, in the on-premise. Okay, so let's watch the storage gateway solution.
AWS Storage Gateway is a hybrid cloud storage service with local caching that gives you low latency, on-premises access to virtually unlimited cloud storage. Stop buying more storage arrays, stop managing tapes, and start using cloud storage today for on-premises applications until you are ready to move those applications to the cloud. AWS Storage Gateway connects your applications to AWS Cloud Storage and enables you to reduce and simplify the infrastructure in your data center and remote offices. Storage Gateway stores data via standard storage protocols, giving you a familiar management experience even on premises. The service provides cloud storage that works with your existing applications in 3 ways: as a file share, as a virtual tape library, or as a block storage volume. The File Gateway gives you SMB and NFS file access. Applications write data to the File Gateway as files, which are stored in Amazon S3 as durable objects by Amazon S3 File Gateway, or in fully managed file shares by Amazon FSx File Gateway that you can then use with other AWS capabilities, such as Lambda functions, machine learning services, or analytics. The Tape Gateway presents a virtual tape library on your local network and is compatible with all major backup software, making it simple to switch over without any process changes. It replaces tape systems and stores your backups online in Amazon S3. You can also archive them in Amazon S3 Glacier or Amazon S3 Glacier Deep Archive for secure long-term retention with predictable data retrieval in hours. You get the savings of storing your data in S3 Glacier Deep Archive, which costs only $1 per terabyte per month in most AWS regions. That's $12 per year to store 1 terabyte of data. The Volume Gateway attaches to your application servers as iSCSI block storage. The gateway caches a portion of your data volumes or stores a full local copy, so you have low latency data access. Volume Gateway also gives you clones or Amazon EBS snapshots for recovery or migration in minutes. Additionally, the Volume Gateway integration with AWS Backup helps you centralize backup management. Whether you need to replace tape backups, host file storage or media archives, or start doing in-cloud analytics with existing data, Storage Gateway frees you to achieve your business goals. Get started with AWS Storage Gateway today.
Right. And so just high-level overviews of these two services, no? Because a lot of the SAA is concentrated on deep understanding of our core services and then a high level of other services. Okay, so some can, I think this is our last slide. No? Can somebody give me questions, no, about AWS or especially on our topics? Okay, so we'll end at module 5. Can somebody give, no? A question? Right? If no questions or no one wants to give me a question, para ma-exercise din yung memory ko in general, no? When you ask questions, you actually also help me because I will try to retain and get from my previous knowledge.
Yeah. So, Sitin, I have a question about Deep Glacier. I've never used Deep Glacier. So, pag yung object nasa Deep Glacier na siya and then request mo siya, kasi di ba meron siyang delay for retrieval.
Yes. Glacier, yeah, lahat ng Glacier, yes.
So, anong i-return sa'yo sa initial request?
Right. So, sa initial request, no, okay lang siya. Okay siya if na-capture niya na yung request mo, no? And it will tell you also the endpoint where it will restore. I think restore for, you can set it kasi parang how long the restored item will be, no, available. So it will give you, for example, you want to permanently restore it to S3, or you want it restored for only a couple of hours or days, no? So when you do that request, that's what you give info first, no? Okay, so once it's ready, once it's ready, it will notify you naman na, hey, it's fully ready. So para ang curious ka siguro, no, parang kailangan ko bang hintayin yung active connection? No, you don't need to do that. Parang request, okay, meron kang retrieval ID or yung request ID, and then ina-notify ka.
So yung notification, paano yun dadating?
Okay, tingnan natin nga, no. Let's see if we have a sample here. Search ko lang Glacier API request notification. Tingnan ko kung magaling yung notification. Okay, so magaling yung set of skills ng pag-search ko. No? Sometimes we're just better at Googling answers. No? Palitan ko, lilipat ako sa google.com, hindi kay DuckDuckGo. Medyo hindi kasi nagko-cooperate yung mouse ko, nauubusan ng battery bigla. Request, retrieval na lang.
So para sa, I guess, para sa class, i-explain ko lang din yung use case na naiisip ko.
Sure. Yes, go ahead.
So kasi yung app kasi namin nagsistore ng recordings. So basically, video recordings siya. Tapos parang, I think, medyo ang laki na ng bill namin ng usage namin sa S3. So parang we were talking about moving it to Glacier and probably Deep Glacier. Pero kasi ang problem lang din kasi yung retrieval kapag kailangan na yung object na yon, yung recording na yon. So parang meron bang additional na kailangan i-change dun sa code pag yung object is nakastore na sa Deep Glacier, for example. So yun yung
right. So short answer, yes, no. You have to modify how your code behaves if you want to ano ba itong mouse na to? You want to do that, no? Wait lang, susubukan ko mag-keyboard. I-highlight ko lang tong second sentence, no? So you either poll or you enroll to a SNS topic.
Okay.
So that the Glacier, once it's complete, will notify SNS topic and dependent na kung paano mo i-receive sa SNS, no? Over email ba? Over calling to SQS or maybe calling directly to ano. Or you can poll it na kasi meron kang ano, 'di ba? Meron kang ID or retrieval request. So you can check ano yung status.
All right. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Hindi ko lang ma-highlight. Yeah. Wala na. Wala talagang battery yung mouse ko. Right. Any other questions? Any other questions? Right. Yung bago, check mo yung ano, kung gusto mo less code, kailangan ko din i-double check yun kasi bagong release lang yung ano, Glacier Instant Retrieval. Pero parang feeling ko the same lang din na kailangan mo pa rin modify. Maybe faster lang siya i-return. But I still think you need to do the either polling or the notification.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Anyone else? So thank you everyone for listening to me at our module. No, I'll stop sharing. And I'll let our host.
Dami namin natutunan.
Thank you din. So, medyo nasisira na parang na ano yung shift or something. Pero siya, i-stop mo lang ako, sino mang host. I think you can stop sharing for me, no? Para uy, mouse, ano nangyari sa'yo? Shell, pwede mong i-click yung sa Zoom, yung 3 dots, tapos sabihin mo parang stop sharing or force stop sharing para you can take over.
All right. Okay. Can everyone turn on their cameras? We'll have a quick picture lang for this session. Make it memorable dahil si Rafi ang ating mentor. Ako pala hindi pa nag-on. Tin, kayang-kaya pa ba dyan? Ano, stress na ba ng umaga sa'yo?
Actually, 1:42, pero dahil change ng daylight, so yeah, 2:40.
Almost na. Lego Games, Jody. Sally, are you based in UK? No, alright. Wala na si Tere, no? Hindi na nakahabol ulit. And then si Pete Peter Paul drop out na much earlier. Okay, sige. Let's have a quick picture together. All right. Okay. If this is your first time to join the session today, send me or DM me lang your email address so that we can send the rest of the materials, even for the first session. And then see you next week for the third session.
Thank you. Maraming salamat din kay Rafi. Sobrang maraming natutunan. So, super thank you.
Ang daming insights na share because of yung mga personal projects na nagawa din niya, and then all these years of mentoring other people also. Iba pa rin pag si Rafi. Sabi ko nga, hindi ko kaya yung 2 hours straight, Rafi. Pero apparently he's been
Sanayan lang, sanayan.
4 hours, ang iba 9-hour sessions pa nga siya. Okay, quick picture. Ay, sorry. Turn off na yung iba. Hindi pa ako nakaka-screenshot. Sorry. Napachika na. Sorry, guys. Sorry, ladies. Carla, game. Ana. Ayan na. Ito na. Totoo na. 1, 2, 3. One more. Back up. All right. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, everyone. Happy Sunday. See you next week. If you have questions, send us. Thank you.